Welcome to The Creative Present, a show that's dedicated to expanding your creative self-expression and at the same time, getting your projects done. And I'm your host, Joshua Townsend. Hey, it's Joshua Townsend, and we're here. We're doing another episode of The Creative Present. We have the amazing Dwayne Walker, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, who's all about the creative process. So you're an educator, in essence.
Yeah, educator, entrepreneur, education technology, but always surrounded by creativity and art. Yeah.
Inspiration, creativity, art.
Sparketh has taught 60,000 kids in over 100 countries. Yeah. And we were on Shark Tank. I don't know if you know the TV show Shark Tank.
I didn't. Yeah, I know it, but I didn't know you were.
Yeah, I don't really push that much. I've been struggling putting certain things out there on my pages because I don't want people to think that I'm sharing it like I'm sharing everything more from a place of I'm learning, and along the way these are some of the things I've learned. And I don't want people to feel like I don't know, it's like a weird dynamic that I'm trying to balance, where I don't want people to look at certain credentials and attach my credibility to that. I would rather the information about creativity be the thing that people kind of lean into. And so during interviews, I would mention, Sparketh, and mention entrepreneurship, the businesses, the books, all of that. But inside the content, I haven't really pushed it that much.
It's so interesting that you bring this up because, we were talking earlier and this is the intersection.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the intersection of art and commerce. It's the business and art, and to work with that and to not have any considerations around it, if that's what someone needs.
Yes. So I think that eventually I'm gonna, when I plan on teaching about entrepreneurship through the lens of an artist, I know for a fact that I can do that because I've helped a lot of artists transform their careers. I've done it myself from a rebrand and things like that. And so I know that I want to. It's just I feel like that's something that's like a full course in a way. And it's not that I'll sell the information. That's not what I'm saying either. What I'm saying is just that it's even some of the topics I think we're going to cover here. I think it could kickstart somebody, but I don't think it's enough information to really take it and really transform their entire career.
See, I look at it in terms of layers, and there is no one thing. Because if there was one thing, then there would be a line around the block and everyone would get the one thing and then, it would be done, right? So it's like the development of any artist creative endeavor is that it's built on the back of the last one. And then with tools and techniques and the vision that you have for going forward. And all of those things stack in. And so when I share something with a client or whatnot, and maybe it takes root, maybe it's just germinating, I don't know. But I have the hope and I have the intentionality that if it doesn't pay off today, 3 months, I have to be patient and go, okay, I'm layering for them 6 months, a year, 2 years.
Makes sense. Yes, no, I agree. Everything is connected. There's no one concrete answer. Everybody's different. I think that as the audience grows, I could definitely start leaning more into it, sharing advice, especially because some people, I think it's like I talk a lot about the philosophy of creativity. I think that eventually I want to be able to talk about the philosophy of creativity, practicalities, and then also kind of what we're saying, the monetary aspect of it. And so I've been really building each pillar one at a time. And so that's kind of like the approach that I've been taking. And I think that every creator is looking for that right now more than ever is figuring out the monetary aspect because the world is changing. And I think that it's changing in a way where people are becoming, there's more entrepreneurs now than ever before. And I actually think that the tools at the hands of artists and creators, they're able to own their audience and build a brand that's uniquely theirs and sell products that's uniquely theirs and solve various problems that's unique to their perspective of the world. And I think that there's no gatekeepers holding them back now versus the past. And
But there are. They're just a lot more subtle.
oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest gatekeeper, and then
I agree.
we project this gatekeeper onto the external world.
Exactly. And that's kind of like why I feel like I have to start with the philosophy of it all because I think once people have the philosophy down and they realize uh the gatekeepers that are holding them back, the critics in their own head,
Right.
the things that are blocking them, and that they're currently ready. They don't need permission to create, to bring their business to life, and that they do hold a power that it's crazy that a lot of business people envy. Like, and that is creativity. I feel like once they realize the power that they hold, then everything else, they could honestly figure it out, and the practicalities of it all, and the techniques are things that they could pick and choose to figure out what they want to implement or not.
Yeah. Let's circle back to that thing we were talking about, though, in regards to Shark Tank. And I find this really interesting. And here's why. I don't look at any one thing being the thing. And if you talk to most people in terms of who have careers and whatnot, if you ask them when did their jam change, there is no one thing really, not really. Yeah, you could say, oh, I won an Academy Award, or, you had this sort of recognition, but that isn't really where it changed. And then if you go, well, where, you kind of go, So what I find interesting is that people, just general people, culturally speaking, most people need to have a stamp, meaning if it's good enough for Beyonce, it's good enough for me, right?
Mm,
And so that's the
mhm.
whole idea of being an influencer and, buying clothes and, having these brand deals and stuff like that, right? Because if it's good
Yeah.
enough for Beyonce, it's good enough for me. So, and it's this really subtle association. And so what we do, culturally speaking, is that we tether our thing, whatever we do, to someone else to help build that base so that everybody can go, oh, well, so, I recognize that. So then you must be successful, right? Success by association.
Mhm.
That's why people drive nice cars, because they're like, if I'm driving a Porsche or a Bentley or whatever it is, then you must be successful. So when you share with me today for the very first time that you were on Shark Tank, which I think is great, I think it's fantastic, and who cares whether it happened or not? Like, I mean, that's almost secondary.
Mhm.
From a certain point of view, a certain kind of person needs that. They need that from you in order to open their door to allow you in. And I don't look at it as Shark Tank. I look at it as a resource.
Mm.
That's all it is. And then how I work with that resource is up to me.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think that immediately, whenever people meet people in general, this is just human nature. We look for indicators that will let us know that we should trust this person, embrace the information in their head. I have a backpack, they have a backpack. Should I be interested in what's in their backpack, and things like that. And I think that Shark Tank or other titles, what it does, and I could agree with you, is it's almost like the halo effect. It's you see it in one area, and all the products that are on Shark Tank, the credibility that Shark Tank's had, and you attach that credibility to me and my messaging. And so I could definitely see that. I think that it's something that I probably should put out in the world more. I think that it does show that I'm not just, here talking. It's something that I've been doing for 10 years, spreading creativity around the world. And, I've been doing it for kids and teens. And now, I've been, for the last 5 years studying it more deeply for adults. And now I'm sharing the message. So it does paint the picture of the journey. And I think that people do need that to, like you're saying, like open up their minds to receive the message. And I think that initially I was feeling like the message should carry and touch people, and hopefully that the message was enough to pierce the soul. But I think that there are a lot of people that the message is missing simply because they guard it and probably need something like that credibility to unlock the door.
See, and this is where we get into this other thing, right? There's people that have great packaging and they say the right words, but it makes no impact because they haven't lived the message. It's
Mm-hmm.
not coming from the truth of the I am state of I am that I am who I am, right? Then there's other people who have completely lived it, but they don't dress a certain way, they don't talk a certain way, they don't whatever certain way. And then again, it doesn't make an impact because that person who has that perception stops. They can't listen anymore because they're not wearing a certain type of clothing or they haven't bathed in a certain amount of days, whatever it is. And so we need that merging of both in order to make the impact. And you have that.
Appreciate it. I think that this conversation, I definitely is one that I think I'll take to my own creative practice, um I've listed things out. Like I knew that I was going to go into every interview, and talk about it and get more insight into who I am. Like, and I think that there's other aspects that I could integrate into my, videos and things like that that I think could merge the two together, like you said, and reach more people because there will be more open. Yeah, no, totally.
And layers.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? 'Cause you're building on the layer before and the layer before and the layer before. Just like how you show up to your life right now. It's partly because of, your mom and your homeschool. I mean, the reason why you're so dedicated to homeschooling is because you were homeschooled. You come from a place of like going to public school and then, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's an outgrowth of who you are.
Yeah, it's the my life is a picture that's painted, and I'm painting it currently. It's tons of layers under the YouTube channel and this brand of World of Creatives that should definitely be revealed and tapped into.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's this layer of like who am I and what do I want, right? That's the baseline question, right? Who am I? What do I want? A better question especially in today's world, is who am I becoming? You need your baseline of who am I? Because who am I becoming is the vision. It's
Yeah.
I am state. And then if I start going, okay, I'm moving in that direction. So what resources do I need? I feel like it's too narrow of a metric to only focus on dollars. I feel like resources is a much better metric to look at.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, I mean, resources is an interesting word because when you think about creativity and artists, a lot of artists don't recognize that business in general and art, they connect because they're about resources. So like 95% of businesses typically fail within the first 5 years. And when you really look at the 5% that succeed, you look at the entrepreneurs, they usually started out like, okay, like I only had this amount of money. I only know these people with these connections. I only had these skills at my disposal. And they look at that And these are their resources that they're essentially painting the picture of that product with. They're leveraging these to bring their vision to life. And I think that when people create, whether it's music or art or dance, writing, whatever, they're exercising that exact same part of their brain. I think the core of creativity, the more you go back and back in time to ancient, ancient history when uh it's always been about using the limited resources at our disposal to solve a problem. How do I hunt better? Create a spear, or how do I keep warm? Create a shelter. How do I track time? Hard calendars and with bones, things like that. And I think that at the core of creativity, it's that problem solving through using your resources, your limited resources.
And I feel people can really relate to that in the opposite way, because how many people do you and I, and myself included, have said, God, if only I had, a gimbal. Oh, if only I had a new iPhone, then,
Mhm.
oh, if I had a new, laptop, then I would. And you get the new whatever it is, and nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Yeah, when I started my YouTube channel 3 months ago, so I had 100 subscribers at the time. I just crossed over 30,000. But when I started the YouTube channel, I literally looked around and I said, okay, what do I have? I got my sister's ring light. I borrowed her ring light. I borrowed my brother's tripod. I got an old camera and I pieced together this setup and I was like, I'm not buying anything else. I'm not buying anything. I'm just using what I have to create the best potential piece of content that I could create. And that's the lens that I think a lot of creators should work through. You should optimize for creating something and sharing it with the world versus trying to affect something and seeking outside resources to bring your vision to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, yeah, there's a guy who told me once, he goes, if you don't have a lot of money and you want to get something done, you better have a lot of friends. Because it's just another resource. That's all it is, right? It's like, okay, what resources do I have? The other thing I work with a lot is you have two drawers in front of you, right? You have one drawer that has everything that you have. All the resources that you have access to is in this drawer. And then there's this other drawer that's empty. Now, you can only pick one drawer to create from. Which one are you going to pick? It's such a no-brainer, but most of us go to the drawer that's empty and go, what don't I have? Oh, I don't have this. I don't have
Mm,
that. I don't have that. Oh, well. And it takes me off the hook of creating, because if I pull from the drawer of all the stuff I do have, now that resistance is gone. Now I'm like,
mhm.
okay, create.
Yeah, no, seriously. And this is one of the core principles of creativity. Or I like to say keys, simply because, a lot of people, and I agree with them. There's no laws, no principles, no rules. It's just keys, and we can choose to use those keys to go through the door if we want to. But yeah, one of the core keys of creativity is, the key of limitation and working within the bounds of the resources that you have. I talk about the Ernest Hemingway story all the time to reference it. And that's a story where he had like a writing style called the iceberg theory, where essentially he would write stories using the least amount of words as possible. And he was sitting around the table, and they would challenge him to write a story in 6 words that would evoke, yeah, would evoke a tearjerker emotion. He sat there and they laid down their bets. They thought he would fail, and he wrote 6 words. He said, "For sale, baby shoes never worn." It's like when you sit with that, "For sale, baby shoes never worn." I don't know. You sit with it long enough, you can really start to tear up. You think about someone you may know, you think about a personal experience, or you just think about the life of that child. And it just resonates deeply. But it just shows that you can pack a punch of a story into 6 words, and you can do the same with any craft, any idea, any vision you need to bring to life.
There's an old saying that says, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter, which is what you're talking about here. And since I work in that world of writing and storytelling and all that, I'm going to go deep on it. So for
Mm,
sale. So if you just take for sale, there's no data other than the
mm,
obvious, right? For sale.
yeah.
Okay, for sale truck, for sale house, for sale
Mm,
whatever it is. So we don't know, but something's for sale. Also, when you're selling something, there's usually some sort of transition, right? You don't,
hmm.
or you had it, you didn't have it, whatever. For sale.
Yeah.
Then he goes to the object, baby shoes. Okay, so that's charged, right? Because it's baby and it's shoes, right? There's a charge on
Hmm.
the shoes. But I still don't have enough data yet. For sale baby shoes. You're like, okay, they're selling baby shoes. Got it. But notice how there's no emotional context yet. And
You're right.
that's why it's so good, because the emotional context that brings everything together is the last word.
Mm,
Never has no new information for you. Never what? Not enough. And so it all comes down on the word worn.
mm, mm,
That's the reveal.
mm,
That's why those 6 words are so good. For sale, setting it up, baby shoes, I have an object, never, okay,
mm.
boom, warm.
Powerful. It's like it builds suspense. It hooks you because you're wondering what's for sale. Baby shoes. Why? Never. Never what? Worn.
Boom.
I feel like even worn, I don't know, it's something about worn too, just it's that word. I think it's the perfect word to evoke the fact that, you know, the story.
We have an association with the word worn, right? Because I feel worn out. I,
Exactly.
I've had a good life, I've been worn down by society. There's a lot of history in that word worn, lots of meanings, lots of layers of meanings.
Exactly. I just think it's it's such a beautiful story.
It is, and it could have said baby dress or baby pants, but
Yeah,
we
exactly.
went after shoes.
Yeah, something about baby shoes. I remember my mom used to for years, she would just have my baby shoes hanging on the mirror of the car. And I think it's some attachment to baby shoes that people just have.
In the 1900s, they used to bronze the first pair of baby shoes.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know when that went out of fashion, but at a certain time in the early 1900s, they would do that. And then everyone would have that thing. And then, back in the day, back in the 50s and the 60s, and maybe, I don't know, today, maybe a little bit, but when you went into a house where they had kids, you'd always see these
Mhm.
little lines on the doorway jamb. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, see? So when you tap into that kind of collective memory, known or unknown, doesn't make a difference. They call it the subordinate image. But when you tap
Mm.
into the subordinate image of something that's very powerful like that, what you're hitting is insane. You hit a well that who knows what's going to come up and out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I don't know, that's the crown jewel of any creator is to create something so simple, so beautiful, yet so powerful. Something that just resonates deeply at a human level where it just pierces the soul and they connect and share and commune in the essence of it.
That's why film is such a powerful medium, because you get all the sensory input except for smell.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because I think that this oversaturation of film has diluted some of the beauty of it in a way. Like I think over consumerism, looking for just and to binge watch a new show or new movie every single day has caused the standard of film to decrease over these last few years. And I love film. I mean, I love every art form in general, but I agree. It's something about film that pulls you out of this world, and you really do live in another world for a couple hours. And it's very rare to have an art form that's capable of doing that. And so, yeah, I do hope that we get back to a place where film becomes about the art again more than the consumerism aspect.
This is a very large topic, but this thing of going into a community space, since you like this kind of stuff, we'll go in this direction. You go into a community space
Mhm.
where there's darkness, which is replicating sleep.
Mm.
Then you all focus on a single source of light in front of you to experience a collective dream, get to watch play out through words and symbols and music and everything else. Now, that experience of going to a movie theater at night, doing it with a collection of people, looking at a single source and experiencing a story is literally the path that we've all been on since the beginning of time. We would circle around a fire, a single source of
Mhm.
light. Everything else
Mhm.
would be dark. We'd be able to focus in, and we would experience a collective dream through the storyteller. It maps to it. You do not get the same experience of having this and then right and watching
Yes, I love that.
7.5 minutes on your couch while you're waiting for your microwave to deliver corn that's only butter flavored
Yes,
with
no.
forever chemicals. Merry Christmas.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like, and
yeah.
we could do the same thing with food, right? It's like I can go to an all you can eat, I don't know, whatever, sushi bar or whatever, all you can eat hamburgers, all you can eat ribs, all you can eat, what do they have? I don't know. All you can eat whatever, and
Yeah.
just gorge, right, for 12 hours, those smorgasbords. Or you could have like a really beautiful farm fresh meal and really enjoy
Mhm.
each bite and have just whatever it is.
Yes, a culturally relevant one that's made, with the spices and the seasonings of the surrounding area. And like you said, that dates back the to when, there was just the resources within reach. There was no, getting, a spice from another continent to cook with in your local area. It was all locally homegrown, everything from the meats to the vegetables to the fruits to the spices, all coming together to see how can we not get repetitive and just how can we continue to make something interesting and tasty and something that can be passed down generations to generations.
Yeah, and each meal, like what you described, each meal is different. Each meal has its nuance, and I can taste it. The whole idea of fast food is to make something so bland, so repeatable, so consistent that if you have it in Japan or if you have it in New York City, it'll taste exactly the same. That's crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's crazy. They're doing a disservice to human creativity, I think. Yeah, it's
Because you're flattening it. You're flattening your
yeah,
taste buds. There's no nuance. You literally can't have nuance in that environment.
yeah. No, you can't. It's not profit friendly.
And I feel like that's what we're talking about in terms of creativity and commerce. So there's this artist that's very popular that everybody knows. I won't even say her name. And she has like, very, you know, high volume sales. And she was talking about her edits on her songs. And there's an edit about every like second, half a second. So I have the experience of her singing one song that's say 4 minutes, and I have the illusion that she's just throwing it down, right? But in reality, she sang that song 50 times, and through editing, they made edits about one every second.
Wow. So what you're experiencing is a chopped up, remixed version, almost like a makeup heavy version of something that should have been originally human.
And that's that addiction thing because you get straight, you do straight sugar, right? And you're not going to be able to taste an apple in the same way if that's your marker,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And it's the same thing here. It's like there is no place that you can go and hear that song live and it'll be the same because it can't.
Mm.
So we set ourselves up for these distortions that are just distortion is really a good example of it. What was that movie with Debbie Moore about being perfectly beautiful? Thematically, that's what we're talking about here. The substance, I think it was what it was called. So it's around that, and it's a disservice in some ways, but I think as long as we have the awareness of what it is that we're seeing and perceiving, it helps.
Oh yeah, it does because I do think that I try not to take away from the creative process of somebody. Like just like if it's a beautiful work where if it resonates, if it has pieces of your soul, and then more power to you. I mean, there's certain people could look at one piece and respect an artist for one reason, and the other person respect the artist for another reason.
Yeah.
I think that as technology advances and edits become even more commonplace than that, I believe that we're gonna look at human centered creativity, the live music, the skillful pianist, the jazz player, and say like, wow, like no, that's really powerful. I can't generate that. I think that on the flip side, there's going to be people who are master skillful prompters. And I don't know if you ever played around with any of the AI tools, but some of them actually do require certain technical fundamental skills to really generate something that's worth appreciating. There's certain aspects of and angles of respect that can be had. So I just let people create at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, yeah, just create more. I feel like one of the things that gets in the way of creating is leading a distracted life. And we have more and more ability to distract ourselves and less ability to actually tune in. And it's really like if I were to crystallize it even more, I would say going from a consumer to a creator.
Yes, yes. I talk about that in my book, Producer versus Consumer. I think that most people are tied to being a consumer and, whether they think they're doing it for inspiration or they're just bored and they're scrolling. I think that people are missing crucial opportunity to create, bring their visions to life and impact the world and understand themselves, go through a level of therapy that I feel like the world needs right now in general. And most people do that because the algorithms are built to pull you back to the platform. I think that we need to fight that with creativity.
Yeah, what I find is it always goes back to this, which is who am I and what do I want? So if I need to know who I am and I need to know what I want, and then I need to have action and I have to have a vision and take actionable steps towards that, creating that. Because if I don't have that, then I'm not even being distracted because I don't have anything that I truly want. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like I need to not only articulate it, but like be on it. That's why we say write it down. Do this. Yeah, all those things help, but you still have to like want it like emotionally and then track to it and then recognize that as a distraction. Oh, when they show me this kind of a video, that's the old Joshua. You used to be distracted, but now this is more important. I'm making this a priority.
Yes. I think there's also a feeling of emptiness that that they feel when they are doom scrolling through content that they have to just be self-aware about. Is this that really helped me initially 2 months before I started creating content on social media. I noticed that every time I picked up my phone and I was scrolling, I would feel an emptiness inside. And it hit me one day that like I could just sense it. And it started being okay, 15 minutes on social media, I sensed it. Then 10 minutes and 5 minutes, then 1 minute. And I deleted my social media and it And 2 months later, that whole process that I went through of just removing myself from technology and realizing that I was just a consumer. And if I ever pick back up social media, I need to come back as a producer and share valuable content. And that's, what I've did since I came back.
What you just described is the addiction process. You know what I mean? You weaned yourself off of the addictive substance, right? Got it down to zero, then went cold turkey on it, right? And then said, okay, if I'm going to go back and engage with this addictive substance, I need to be the one driving the bus. And you did it.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, for sure. I appreciate it. It's funny because I made a video on this and yeah, I felt like it was one of those videos where when I was making it, I was like, I hope that this video has like 50% watch time because everybody just drops off and gets off of social media. That was my goal because it's like as much as I want people to engage with my messages and things like that. I do want people to have a responsible and healthy relationship with these platforms. You know, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be something that, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Like when I watch your content, I feel inspired. I feel motivated to put down my phone and go create. And I hope that people feel the same way.
It's true. And then we use the platforms to get the message out, which has all the irony that one needs. But yeah, but this is how we do it.
It's the way the world is right now. Yeah.
You know what I think it points to? I think it points to this thing of it's not what, it's how. It's not what you do on your platforms, it's how you work with the platform. And there's that old thing of like, oh, the guy thinks, oh, well, I'm using the system. But that's just a lure because eventually the system takes over and then all of a sudden the system's using the guy, right? Working for the man, right? And to not engage at that level is it takes a lot of awareness.
Yeah, it does. I think the best platform for creators like us is to have email subscribers. I think that it's very difficult to truly connect with your audience when you're at the mercy of the algorithm. So let's say I have a video blow up on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram and it gets 1 million views and my followers shoot up 100K followers. The next post that I post, it doesn't go to the 100,000
Right.
people. It's like I have to think, okay, how can I boost the retention of this and keep people here longer for them to even send it to those people versus I provided value one time. That value just so happened to be something that was viral worthy. It went viral. And now that I have the attention of people who want continuous value, I should be able to reach them. And so it's one of the reasons why I've been prioritizing building an email newsletter. Like I direct people straight to worldofcreatives.com and just tell them to subscribe there is because there I can, once a week just send out something that I think is nurturing and great for the mind, inspires people to go create something versus having to try to figure out how to make this have a hook.
I find it ironic that they do call it a hook. And you know what they call girls who work on the street.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not so far off now, is it?
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. That's the whole point of it. It's the whole point.
Yeah, so it's just interesting. Yeah, when we have a reductionistic approach to anything, and follow this template, follow this, step-by-step plan, it's like it's not to say that there's not value in some of those, underlying principles, but the whole idea of creativity is to be creative and to work for
Yeah.
your skill sets. What's the name of your website?
It's worldofcreatives.com. So World of Creatives.
I love it. World of
Thank you.
Creatives. That's so inclusive.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I think that if when I was writing the book, I realized and felt that if everyone in the world took the time out of their day to just create and tap into their creativity and their childhood and engage in therapeutic aspects of bringing their ideas to life, that the world would just be a better place. And I think that there's a lot of people out there like me and you who value creativity, see the benefits of it. And if you ever talk to someone who sees that, you start to realize that they just have like a warm soul. Like you can just, it'll just be wonderful to have a village of people like that. And so, the way I view the world of creatives is going to evolve into more of a digital community, a digital campfire where, creatives from all domains can get together and continuously be inspired, hold each other accountable, learn, grow, figure out how to even make money on their craft, and potentially one day even have in-person events.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm going to send out an invitation to everyone who's listening about this element of everyone creates in their own way, right? Everyone has their own area of interest or speciality or sensibility. And to tune into that, is it audio? Is it visual, or is it tactile? Those are the three major ones, right? Is it music? Is it writing? Is it, filmography, photography, or is it something more like uh, more of a texture, like where you sculpt something like a sculpture or something like that, touch driven food.
Mm.
And then once one can identify their own area of interest or what they're innately good at, then they can easily move in that direction. Because sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I'm not creative." I'm like, "Yes, you are. You're just not. You're just not seeing it, or you're not identifying it, or it's so natural to who you are. You don't even see it as." Like I was talking to this girl, and this girl's goes, "I'm not creative," and I'm like, "I'm sorry. Didn't we just have a conversation about how you're going to do your living room? Didn't you just like go on about the fabrics and the shape and where you're going to place it in the room?" You go, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, what do you call that?
Creative.
What do you call that? Like, is that truck driving?"
I think that what people miss, and this kind of boils down to even the ancient aspect of creativity. So the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Mm.
Like, let me tell you what that is, just with all of
Maslow.
them real quick.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so it's the pyramid where at the base it has like all of the needs of humanity and of humans, like a basic human needs, and then as you have those fulfilled, then you can move up to the next rank. Then as you have those fulfilled, you move to the next rank. So at the base, you had psychological needs. You have the food, the water, the shelter, clothing, things like that. Once you have all those, then you move up to health and family and things like that. And then you have friendship. That's loving. It's love and belonging. Then you have self esteem, and then at the top you have self actualization. A lot of people say that that's where creativity lies. I talk about that in my book because I do feel like we live in a world right now where we can achieve self actualization through the lens of creativity. But the thing that, and I didn't even touch on this in the book, but it's something that I've realized after is that
Mm.
creativity lives in all of those.
Mhm.
Creativity is in, like we said, the food, like how we cook, problem solving to figure out how are we going to get water to our village. And that's what, a lot of ancient history was on. It was figuring out how are we going to build the shelter and the houses and how are we going to get the clothes and things like that. All of that is creativity, and then building up to businesses that people can work at, or figuring out health and medicine, and it's problem solving all the way building up to uh connecting with people in the love and belonging and the self-esteem, understanding yourself, and through creativity, and then building up to that self-actualization. I feel like creativity touches all aspects of those, and a lot of people don't notice that. A lot of people think, I feel like, that creativity only lives in the self-actualization part, in the part where I'm just expressing myself, and this is just something that's all about beauty and things like that. But creativity touches every single thing. chair that I'm sitting on, the laptop that I'm using, the way this room is designed, kind of how you pointed out, it touches every single thing.
Yeah, so that's why I when people throw out Maslow, I kind of go yes and no. To your point, to what you're talking about, is because there is that thing of like, oh, only when all of these other things are met, only then can you create, right?
Mhm.
And and it's not true based on everything you just said. And there's a distinction though. So the only other distinction I would throw in there is that when you're running from a tiger, not the best time to be creative. So when you're literally in those kinds of peril situations, if you haven't eaten for, a month, then absolutely you don't really care about what the plating looks like. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so there is a reality to what he's talking about. But beyond that, what happened was, and I think if I were to draw a line in the sand, it would be somewhere around World War I, World War II, was that we went away from being creative in these other forms to being what they call form or function, where we're
Mhm.
just interested in how it functions. We don't care about
Mhm. Mhm.
form. And you can see in the architecture of, 1900, 1920, 1930, crown moldings, handles that are just super detailed. Everything is like, it's a craftsman, right? And then you cut to today and you're like, let's go to Home Depot and get a handle that looks like all the other handles. And I feel like that's where we did our misstep as a culture.
I agree. It's the mass producing of things that I think, it to be mass produced, it has to be the same. That's
Which
just
is the same as, fast food. It's the same as you see how it like starts to replicate. And
yeah. Mhm.
I'm like, wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. Fast food, fast fashion, everything. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that one of the things that we see throughout history though as well is when mass production is introduced, it takes a hit on creativity for a brief while, but then the handcrafted usually reemerges as a luxury and as something that and so think fast fashion or even fast food, like it's the mass production of things does kind of flip into the value of something that's handcrafted masterfully. So it is a tricky balance, but yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to. I mean, it would be nice that if it wasn't just only against a price tag. Like, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So in car manufacturing, it was great because everyone got a car, everyone got like something that was decent, et cetera, et cetera. But even back in the 50s and the 60s, the care and detail of those mass-produced cars were at a different level than the Hyundai, today.
Mhm.
And in order
Yeah.
to get handcrafted, you have to go to Bentley, you have to go to Rolls Royce, you have to go to, ridiculous. And it would be nice to, anyway, find a way to bridge that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I mean, I don't know, maybe that would be a nice little project to, wrap up the end of my life, my last project that I worked on.
Oh, you was on your last one. So really, you're seeing it for years into the future, are you now? That's
Yeah. Because that would be a very great gift to humanity if anybody's watching and wants to work on that. Seriously. I think the timing for something like that is right now because I think that with the rise of AI and many robot manufacturing, there's going to be more and more things that are manufactured that lack the human touch.
actually, you're absolutely right. You want to know where I'm seeing it right now in today's world, where if done properly, it could do this. 3D printing.
Mhm. Yes,
3D
yes,
printing could be the bridge point between mass producing and still customization.
I agree.
How
That's a great point. That's
that's
a great point because that way I can, instead of going to Home Depot and buying a doorknob that's the same as everybody else's, I could go here and it's essentially crafted from the mind of an artist. And yeah,
wouldn't that be
for sure.
cool? All right.
That would be awesome.
Well, we figured that one out. Now you have to come up with another one for the end of your life. Sorry.
Oh man.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you. You too. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, man. All right. Bless
All
you.
right, have a good one. Bye. You too.
Thank you for listening. If you love what you're listening to, please subscribe and then share with fellow creatives. For more, go to joshuatownsend.com.